It's not easy to create a good origin movie. Captain Marvel managed to make a compelling story while explaining the powers of the new superheroine. What more can we ask for? Well, a lot, actually. For over 10 years, origin stories worked their way into this cinematic universe. It became such a drag on the phases that the creative team worked away from that standard.
But there's still a way all of us can fight.
Captain Marvel is the first trip to an origin since Doctor Strange. That's a great step in a new direction, but the special part is the fact that it's set before Iron Man happened in 2008. Now, Captain America did this, but this is the first time we are seeing this in such an established universe. Phase 1 needed the work done, but this film was in a whole nother situation being set in 1995. It was a bold decision, and if we're being honest, we expected the film to make some mistakes. However, that doesn't mean we expected the errors to be this glaring.
I'm just supposed to take your word for that.
Problems were made in this origin movie, but compared to Ant-Man or Thor, Captain Marvel is not perfect, but maybe this video will help atone for all these confusing moments. Yes, plot holes are present in Captain Marvel. Fans were bothered by it, and that's understandable. We want the creative team to stick to their guns. If you say the sky is blue in 2008, then it better be blue in 1995 too. So when the sky ends up being a weird shade of sea green, the audience gets confused. Okay, so that metaphor didn't make the best sense, but the point still remains. Plot holes end up distracting the viewer and taking away from the narrative. Writers hate plot holes, and a studio so set on the details should find a way around them.
Wow.
Still, all this movie shows is no studio is perfect on the details. So, Behind the Screen is here to help cover those plot holes and see if they can't be explained away. That's right, we're here to do the job Marvel somehow failed to do. You're welcome, Kevin Feige. We'll bill you later. Now, before we jump in, this is not a critical review of Captain Marvel. As an origin story, the movie does a good job. The plot holes present in the story affect the wider MCU. Most of the plot holes don't actually hurt the narrative arc. So if for some reason you're watching this without seeing the film first, thanks for being so open to spoilers. And second, this video shouldn't discourage you from enjoying the actual plot of the movie. Okay, we got that out of the way. Let's get into these moments that left so many bewildered by the decisions. It's pure nerdism to dig into this stuff, but we love this, and hopefully you love it too. So, enough delaying, here's the first one. This plot hole involves S.H.I.E.L.D. Well, a lot of the movie involved this organization, but this is literally about the name S.H.I.E.L.D. Throughout the movie, Fury refers to the organization as such, and it makes sense. As a Marvel audience, we all know what the acronym means. Heck, there's an entire television show dedicated to the operation. No one is confused by Fury saying S.H.I.E.L.D. But wait a second. Remember Iron Man? That movie set the entire cinematic universe up back in the late 2000s. A running joke throughout the film is Agent Coulson saying the full name, Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division. Whoa, say that 5 times fast. At the end of that film, Coulson tells Pepper that they shortened the name to just S.H.I.E.L.D. because they realized that was a mouthful.
Just call us S.H.I.E.L.D.
2 explanations are plausible for why Fury says the acronym before it apparently exists in the universe. 1, Coulson is a no-nonsense agent, and when we see him as a rookie in Captain Marvel, he seems like the kind of guy who wouldn't know to call the organization by the acronym. Not to mention the full name takes up way too much time to say. The other possibility is that running joke in Iron Man is a spy tactic. Coulson is more than willing to pretend to be an agent for a more well-known agency, so why not make this agency seem less threatening? The long name clearly loses Tony Stark's attention quickly, but Coulson may want that so his operation to observe Stark can stay under the radar. Either way, the plot hole seems to be forgivable in our minds. The context of Iron Man was entirely different. It's forgivable to see S.H.I.E.L.D. used as a joke in the first film because it's only developed since then to become a more involved subject matter. Alright, take a breath, 1 down, 1 more to go. Yes, this is a lot to go through, but you're here for it and we're here for it. This kind of attention to detail is what we love about these films and their fandom. So, on to the next one. Remember the Skrull sit-down? Fury and Carol Danvers discuss the alien race in the bar that she is tracked to. Danvers explains the way a Skrull is able to replicate someone's identity. She clearly states they are only able to access recent memories, so the best way to expose a Skrull is by asking about a deeply personal early memory. Then Danvers asks Fury a number of personal questions, and we discover he doesn't like eating diagonally cut toast. It's hilarious, but it all brings up a problem. How does Danvers know Fury isn't a Skrull at this point? Like, every memory he is giving her could easily be fabricated by a Skrull with great improv skills. She is setting a baseline to ensure she knows what to ask when the going gets tough, and we see it works when the two people know each other well. However, she just met Fury here recently. Why is she trusting him now? Well, the answer is simple. She can't fully trust him. She knows the solution is not perfect, but the Kree strategy is exposed early on in the film. She needs to go with what works best. Either way, Fury or the possible Skrull is going to help her into Project Pegasus. The risk is worth the reward, and she can still rely on this test if he turns out to be human. It makes sense as a gamble that Captain Marvel is taking at the time. The next plot hole has to do with the pager we see given to Fury at the end of the film. You know the one. The same pager he finally hits when he is being snapped away. Carol clearly states to Fury only to hit it if it's a really serious emergency. We are told that is the only criteria. So, let's get this straight. An alien invasion led by a power-hungry, godlike villain terrorizing New York does not qualify as an emergency? Okay, Fury, we see you. Look, it's a question worth asking, but honestly, the explanation makes total sense. Think about Fury's motive to create the Avengers Initiative. It takes him years to make it a reality, and even then, he is worried that it might fail. The Avengers is his vision. His investment is deep. Fury wants to prove it will work. He waited to the last possible moment to hit the pager, but it was always a backup plan. Think about the actual moment he hits the pager. It is clear that he understands the Avengers and all of Earth's mightiest heroes failed. He needs to go to plan B, so he does. Boom! Pager hit, and we understand his own criteria for pressing the help button. Speaking of items, let's talk about the Tesseract. See, it was our understanding that Stark picked up the Tesseract and the Space Stone went directly under S.H.I.E.L.D. security when that organization was set up. However, that's all an assumption at the end of the day. Project Pegasus has popped up a few times in connection with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Stark. We know the agency that originally started out protecting the world was turned around and used by Hydra. They were in on the organization from its roots. It's more than likely that the Tesseract was being used by Project Pegasus to create military weapons and crafts.
Tesseract is misbehaving.
Dr. Lawson was recruited to help create the aircrafts from the Tesseract, knowing her research would attract S.H.I.E.L.D. and Project Pegasus to her. Fury holds on to the Tesseract until he knows all the details about its use when he obtains the highest clearance he can. Then he puts it under strict lockdown protocol. It's not hard to believe Fury may have misled the people around him when it came to the full origins of the Tesseract, which actually goes into two other plot holes surrounding his actions during Captain Marvel. In case you haven't noticed, Fury is centered around a lot of these confusing moments. That makes a lot of sense. People are confused by him telling Tony that he knew Howard Stark really well in Iron Man 2, but we know he only had a job at S.H.I.E.L.D. for 2 years before Howard died in 1991. It's more than likely Fury is simply lying to Tony. He wants to motivate him to uncover those secrets Howard left. A spy is more than capable of warping emotions to create a certain response. The organization functioned in a completely different way back then. S.H.I.E.L.D. only worked into plots as an emotional device to elicit responses, but Captain Marvel sees a more encompassing idea of the agency. Plus, that same principle might explain Fury blaming the S.H.I.E.L.D. weapon advancement on the Asgardians wiping away a small town in Avengers. He is lying. We saw the Skrull and Kree power, but he needs the Avengers initiative to work, so he lies about the motives behind the organization. These plot holes all make sense when you place them in context of a spy simply using their talents. Okay, that is all for the big plot holes. But what does this mean going forward? If Marvel is going to dabble in stories from the past, they need to be careful about how they're going to do it. Heck, Feige has already hinted in his own statements about the pager plot hole that Fury might have used it before New York. That offers so many possibilities for fans, including us, to speculate on. The MCU will change at will. The creative team is showing a willingness to adapt and adjust on the fly to make the story work. We shouldn't punish that. At the end of the day, the studio is starting to act more like the comics. The Marvel comic books are full of plot holes. It's part of making these big superhero universes. Mistakes will be made, but that's okay if it leads to more heroes and better stories. Maybe that's not correct. You might be unconvinced and still confused by Captain Marvel. If that is the case, let us know in the comments and be sure to follow us for more details on the film. All you have to do is hit the link down below to be automatically subscribed.